Hello, thank you so much for watching. Today we're going to make these adorable fairy houses together. These are a wonderful spring craft that will look so cute in any of your indoor or outdoor spaces. So to get started, you're just going to need a ceramic pot. This is just a terracotta pot that's going to serve as the house for our little fairy. Next, you're going to need a plate. This is just any old plate. We're choosing a ceramic plate today so it absorbs the paint similarly. Next, I'm just placing down a couple pieces of paper. This is just to keep my workspace nice and clean. You can use newspaper or grocery bags, whatever you have lying around. Next, I'm adding my very first layer of paint to my fairy house. I chose pink for my house, but you can choose whatever color you'd like for yours. You want to make sure that your layer of paint is nice and thin, but it does not have to be perfect. It just has to be evenly coating your entire house. We're going to go over this with a second coat, so don't worry about any little mistakes that come along the first coat. Once that is all dry, I'm just adding my second coat of paint. I'm using the exact same color to make it just a little bit more opaque and to clean up any of those little messes that I made on the first round. Now that that's all done, I'm going to paint my plate. I'm choosing to add a little bit of green grass and moss to my fairy house today, so I chose a similar color for my plate just to help it seamlessly blend into that moss that I'm adding later for some texture. While the paint is still wet, I'm adding just a little bit of glitter. This is just going to add some dimension to my fairy house and give it a little bit of sparkle. You can never have too much pixie dust, right? So I'm shaking off that extra glitter, and then I'm just going to let those dry for just a few minutes. After just a few minutes, I'm coming back to make sure that my paintings are dry to the touch, which it seems like they are, so we can move on to the next step. Next, I'm setting out some decorative elements. These are just things that I hope to add to my fairy house when I'm all done with the painting process. I have a couple animal friends and a little mushroom and some flowers. These are just some decorative elements that I felt like added a little whimsical forest feel to my fairy house. I used these as references as I was painting my house, but if you don't have any physical items that you're hoping to add, you can use some printed images or some pictures on your phone. I found that it was extremely helpful to have something to reference to so that it seemed very cohesive when we were all done. Next, I grabbed these Q-tips. I'm going to be using these for adding any little small details on my painting that might be little polka dots or things like that. I knew that I wanted to add some polka dots to the mushrooms and maybe add some little flowers or some buds to the meadow that's at the bottom of my fairy house, and I found that these were extremely helpful in adding just those little round details. Now I'm adding my fairy's door. She needs a little door for her house, and I didn't have this exact color lying around, so I just mixed some colors that I already had. You can get as creative as you want to in making your little fairy house. So I'm just adding a first coat, and then I'm going to add a second coat to make sure that it's nice and opaque. And while I wait for that to dry, I'm just adding a few more polka dots here and there to add a little bit of a cartoony feel to my fairy house today. After adding the second coat to my fairy house, I'm just adding a little sign next to it and some windows for her door just to give her a little bit of character in her house. Next, I'm using a Sharpie to just add a little contrast and really highlight all the details of my painting. This is a great way to carve out all the colors and add just a lot more dimension and texture to your drawings as well. Now that our painting is all done, I just cleaned up my workspace and I'm adding these adorable little rhinestones to the top. These are really magical and they're perfect for any little one to help you with because they're just little stickers. Next, I'm adding the moss to my fairy house. This is just a little bit of craft moss and I have some green tinsel laying around, so I'm using that as well just to give a little more dimension and some sparkle to my house as well. Now I'm grabbing those decorative elements and I'm just playing with where I want them to sit. You can get really creative with this part and use little animals or butterflies or any sort of sparkles or glitter or pom-poms, really anything you have lying around. I'm just kind of playing with where I want them to sit. Once you've added the final details of your fairy house, it's complete. It looks so sweet, we love all the details, and now that Tinkerbell has a place to stay, maybe she'll come visit you with all of her fairy friends. We hope you enjoyed this spring craft. Thank you so much for watching!